Hi, this is Bob Papa, voice of the New York Football Giants, and this is the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast. Go get 'em, guys.
Welcome back, Giants fans, to the latest edition of the Big Blue UK and Ireland podcast, as always in association with Andy's Man Club. It is okay to talk. Apologies for the slight delay in going live this evening. A few technical issues as we were due to go live on my bad. So, yeah, we're with you now, though. That's the main thing. Kev is back this week, making it a full house, joining myself, Shane, and producer Craig as we take a closer look at some free agents that we might like to sign or might even like to look at in the upcoming free agency window, paying close attention to some particular positions of need. Guys, how we doing?
Yeah, not bad, thanks. It's good to have Kev on this week and all four of us be back. I know I said it last week, probably a little bit egotistical, but I love that entrance video. Like, so just watching back some of the photos and that, like, I could just watch that over and over again, to be fair.
Oh, absolutely love it. And thank you very much, guys. Welcome me back on. You're making me blush over here. That intro is just amazing. It's just so cool. Like it's the first time I watched it last week, obviously, watching the podcast back so I could make it. But yeah, I mean, this is it now. New season. We turn over the book. We turn over a new leaf. This is the new season starting and moving forward. And looking at some of these free agents could be players to bring in. Or are we going to bring in the next Bobby Okereke, or are we going to bring in the next Paris Campbell? We can only wait and see.
Hilariously, I was looking back at our tracker from last year, and Paris Campbell was your pick, Kev, and was the only one that we got right out of the God knows how many prospects we looked at. And lo and behold, he was the worst of them all.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, yeah, Paris Campbell didn't turn out great. I mean, there's another Colts receiver that we're going to talk about fairly soon as well that, you know, might be a little bit better. Yeah, maybe go 2 for 2. But
I'll just apologise now, should I?
Yeah, why not? Why not? It's Paris Campbell didn't work out, did he? For some reason, don't know. But there we go. But yeah, looking forward to tonight. Should be a good one. Got a lot to get into, so we better get cracking. But as usual, let us know your thoughts in the comments. If there's any different free agents that you like the look of, let us know as well. If you've got any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments as well, and we will try our best to get them answered throughout the evening. Don't forget, you can also still get 10% off our podcast merchandise at our Etsy shop. Head on over and show us some love. The link to that will be in the description. It's on there until midnight tonight, I believe. So if you want to get yourself some cheaper podcast merch, head on over there this evening. Yeah, before we get cracking with the free agency, we've got obviously this time of year is ramping up to Kevin Shane's favourite time of year. It's draft season, and two of the 6 favoured analysts, I said that word right, analysts, have released their latest mock drafts this week. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein revealed his first choices, with the Giants taking tackle, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce his name, Talisi Fuaga out of Oregon State.
Very good.
I'll take that. I'm sure Shane's thrilled with that one. And NFL Network and Move the Sticks podcast host Daniel Jeremiah released his updated version yesterday, and he was went sort of a little bit controversial. Maybe he took Jaden Daniels, quarterback out of LSU. Question for you both, though, Shane and Kev. With Zierlein being the first to sort of deviate away from that receiver group, that sort of run that we saw in the first mocks, 6th overall pick a bit rich for Fuaga,
Kev? Yes. I mean, a 6th overall pick. I saw someone actually take Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Now, I'd have Joe Alt from Notre Dame as number 1 on my tackle board. Talisi Fuaga, though, I think is a very, very good player, and I can see him sneak in the top 10. Maybe just a little bit rich at number 6 for me, to be honest. But I think he could definitely come in. He is more of a right tackle. Love the comment. God help the Giants to draft the O-line in the first round. That's right, Steve. I mean, but there is a good theory behind it. I mean, like tackles are premium positions, and there's some really good premium position players in this draft. I mean, wide receiver, tackle, cornerback. You know, these are positions that are high draft picks, big money free agents, big money signings as well. And you know, a lot of people say you want to help Daniel Jones. If you're going with him again, you get a bookend tackle. This guy, you believe, if you're taking him at 6, he will be a starting tackle in this league. And then you kick old Evan Neal into guard, where he had a very, very good season with the Alabama. A good play out of him at guard, then that could be a solid offensive line going forward.
Shane, what do you reckon? Offensive line at 6? Big fat no?
Like, I'm just wondering if someone's like tweeted Lance Zerline for Bants and said, "Oh, piss everyone off. Take offensive tackle at 6." Now,
I would love it if someone slipped into his DMs and said, "Look, Lance, there's this guy Shane, right, over in England. Could you please just
imagine?"
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I will say Fuaga is probably my right tackle 1. I'm not a fan of taking Joe Alt or Fashanu and moving him over to right tackle. We've seen what happened with Evan Neal. I know Evan Neal played at college, but I think for me, if you want to take a tackle this year, take one that's played right tackle at college level. The year we, someone sent that tweet. I don't care what no one says. The year we took Evan Neal, I really wanted Abraham Lucas out of Washington State. He was a great right tackle, played right tackle his whole state, and Seattle took him in the second round, and he's been solid for them, absolutely spot on. So in regards to Fuaga, right tackle 1, yes.
And I will just add as well, he played every snap at right tackle this past year for Oregon State.
Yeah, so that's why, you know, I'm not a fan of taking left tackles and moving them over anymore. So yeah, I mean, like I said, Fuaga right tackle 1, O-line in round 1, no.
Yeah, I mean, look at how it ended up with Evan Neal 2 years ago. So, you know, I'm not necessarily on taking O-line in round 1 this year. There's bigger needs in the team, I think. But yeah, I think it's always interesting to see the analysts bring out their mock drafts and see which way they go. But I was quite surprised that one went for offensive tackle. You know, was it his first or second? It was his second mock draft, wasn't it?
Just to add, you know, you said that Daniel Jeremiah came out and said, "What did Daniel Jeremiah have Malik Neighbors in his first draft, and now he's got Jay Daniels in his second one." Now he says he picked him here because there's no trades, but he did sort of insinuate that, you know, he feels that the Giants could be one of the teams, along with the Falcons and maybe the Vikings and other teams, who actually want to move up in the draft. So there is that kind of rumbling going around at the moment. The Giants, if there was a deal that wasn't too rich, that they could be in business to move up.
Yeah, it seems to be doing the rounds on the Giants socials at the moment. Is the Giants moving up in round 1? So we'll keep a close eye on that, and you know, no doubt we'll be chatting more about that in the weeks to come. But that's enough of that. Now we're going to move on to the main event, talking about free agency. Like I said, we've got a lot to get through this evening. We're only 3 weeks away from the free agency window opening, and teams are able to now place a franchise tag on whoever they want to keep. Since yesterday, we thought it was a good idea and good time to look closer at some of the players Big Blue might be targeting over the next sort of month or so. We've got 8 positions of need. Well, we've determined we've got 8 positions of need, with the remaining 3 not being as important. But you know, there's no harm in picking up a bargain or 2 to add some depth to the team as well. We've based our selections loosely, very loosely, off the top 150 free agents as published by Pro Football Focus, with a few names outside of that list also being picked. Position of need that we've determined are receiver, quarterback, tackle, edge, running back, corner, interior offensive line, and safety as well. And that's the order we'll be running through them. Three of us has picked each position, and we'll take it in turns to pitch a certain player in each one of those units. And then the person who hasn't pitched will make the decision on which one they'd prefer to take. Does that make sense? That sounds about right, yeah?
Affirmative.
Get in. I made sense of it then. Perfect. All right, so we've got receivers up first. As I said, Kev, you're into the den first. Who are you picking?
Right. I've kind of picked this player more so on who I think's the best fit for the Giants, regardless of kind of money asking for stuff like that. Later on, I will be picking more sort of like realistic options. I don't really think a top wide receiver with that type of money is something that we'll be looking at. I think that's the draft. But if I had to choose one of these players, I'm going to go for Michael Pittman, wide receiver who played for the Colts. He's 26-year-old former USC wideout. He was drafted by the Colts in the second round in 2020. Pittman has become the Colts' best receiver, totaling 336 catches for 3,662 yards, 11 yards per catch at 71.2% reception rate and 15 touchdowns. I mean, his 3,600 plus yards is good enough for 21st among all wide receivers during that time span. He also mostly stayed healthy, playing no less than 16 games in each season. Now, this past season, it was statistically, thank you very much, Pittman's best season, where he had over 100 catches, 109 receptions for 1,152 yards, a 72.7% reception, 518 yards after the catch, being all career highs. To show you just how important Pittman was to the Colts last season, just look at the Week 16 game against the Falcons, which he missed. Minshew threw for only 200 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 1 interception. And the most receptions, most reception yards that day was by tight end Grayson, who had 62 yards on 5 completions. Now, the cost, the projected annual salary according to Spotrac, would be $22.7 million on a 4-year contract. Now, it's kind of comparable to the 3-year deal DK Metcalf got in 2022. But you can kind of structure it so it wouldn't be, you get probably 14 to 16 million in year one. You wouldn't necessarily have 22 million on the books for the first year. You could spread it out over the course of the deal. And I just think he's one of those players that, he's got good height, he's got good pace, he runs good routes, just kind of a really good all-round player. And it's someone who I can only dream of to be on the team, to be honest.
Cool. So
Another Colts receiver.
Yes. Kev trying to go 2 for 2 on drafting Colts receivers, hoping that this one will be better.
And I'll be going for one next year as well.
The old trifecta, yeah? Right, so I've gone for a slightly different receiver, one that Mr. Dable knows quite well. I've gone for Gabe Davis from the Bills. Davis has been at the Bills since he was drafted in 2020. As I said, is a player Dable knows well after being his offensive coordinator for his first 2 seasons in the league. He's another receiver who, like Pittman, over 6 foot and known for being someone who doesn't shy away from a contested catch. Davis has 185 receptions for 3,203 yards, 33 touchdowns, and a yards per reception of 17.3 yards. Don't expect him to be a constant threat after the catch, though. His yearly average is around about 3.5 yards yak. Last year, he played a high number of snaps, but really failed to shine in the passing game due to a lack of separation and targets from quarterback Josh Allen. 78 targets for 28 less than 2022 due to the emergence of rookie tight end Kincaid as well. Although he only had 11 less catches on the season. One area he was used heavily in was run blocking, but that was more down to the fact that he was the Bills' best option as opposed to it actually being a strength of his. Now, cost-wise, after a challenging final year of his contract with the Bills, PFF have projected him to get a 1-year prove-it kind of deal, sitting around the $12 million per year mark. However, on the other hand, Spotrac are predicting a 4-year deal at around 13.6.
I'll take myself off mute. Interesting. Gabe Davis. Nice. Shane, who you got?
Yeah, so I think this is out of all the players that I picked, this was the one where I decided to sort of make sure all the money got spent because it's a big position I need. So I've gone for Calvin Ridley. He's a bit of a revelation in his first few years in the league. He's had 3,061 yards, 26 touchdowns. 2021 saw Ridley playing the first 4 weeks before he didn't travel to London in week 5. He returned for one game after the bye and then announced he was stepping away for mental health reasons. Later on, he would be suspended till the conclusion of the 2022 season due to betting. In November of 2022, the Jags traded for Ridley from Atlanta, knowing he couldn't play until the season just gone 2023 season. Now, if you look at his 2023, he had a pretty good season. He had 101 yards and a touchdown on 8 receptions in week 1. The rest of the season, he was kind of hit and miss, but he still went over 1,000 yards, 1,016 yards in total with 8 touchdowns. He had 4 games where he went for over 100 yards as well. And it was only the second time that he's finished with over 1,000 yards. In regards to his cost, PFF is projecting a 3-year, 17 million average contract. Hopefully, he's not going to use that for any gambling if he does get his contract. A little bit awkward. That's where I decided to sort of spend the bulk of the money. I was a massive Calvin Ridley fan coming out. I think he was really, really underrated at Atlanta, and I think Jags made a great bit of business by trading for him, to be honest, a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, he was very excited when he came to the league. It's a shame, obviously, he's had his issues off the field, but on the field, he's an absolute baller. Obviously, it's down to me to pick. Colts receivers don't do it for me. As much as I think Pittman is a very, very good receiver. I mean, look how Paris Campbell turned out. And I think since the likes of Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, sort of back when Peyton Manning was quarterback at the Colts, I've not really rated a Colts receiver highly enough that I'd like to see them on the team. I think that being said, his numbers from last year are ultra impressive. Was targeted at least 5 times in each game, posted some great catch percentages as well. Adding the fact he's going to be 27 when he starts the season, so he's still going to be sort of his prime age for a number 1 receiver. It definitely makes him an exciting option. I think cost-wise, might be a little bit too expensive with the amount of cap room we've got, but like you said, you could potentially move some of that money into further years, obviously with the salary cap always ever increasing. Gabe Davis, that sort of Giants-Bills link continues, so I'm not really surprised to see him on the list. We're looking at potential wide receiver 1, unless we explore that option in the draft, with the big names that will probably be available for us at 6. I like the fact he's good in run blocking. He'll be 25 when the season starts, and he's worked with Dave before, so he'll know his capabilities. The problem with Gabe Davis, I find, he can be very boom or bust. There's been 4 games last season he's held without a catch, and he only recorded more than 75 yards receiving in 5 out of 17 games. So his number might be a little bit high for a prove-it deal, but is an interesting option as well. Calvin Ridley, I'm ruling him out because he wears number 0. I'm joking. His first few years in the league were very impressive. Like I said, the off-field problems, obviously, granted, he took the break away from the league because of mental health, and I'm all for that. And he wanted to get himself right, no problem at all. It's just that sort of the whole suspension thing it's not great. And does he fit that smart, tough, dependable mantra that Dave's is looking for? Yes, he might be tough. Yes, he may be dependable, but was he particularly smart in getting himself suspended? Yeah, he might have turned a new leaf now, and he might be sort of onto a clean slate now, but those sort of previous issues could potentially rear their head again. The past season, though, he had an impressive season. He had only 1 game where he didn't break single digits in terms of receiving yards, but his 56% catch rate is a little bit of a concern. He'll always be 30 by the time the season comes around too. So is it quite a risk to pay someone of his age that sort of money when he's had troubles in the past? potentially. I think if we had more cap space, personally, I'd be on at Mike Evans, but that's just me. The fact that Mike Evans has had 10 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons, I mean, it's a no-brainer. But yeah, he's going to be way too expensive for us. Just like I think Pittman's going to be too expensive for us. So I'm ruling out Michael Pittman as much as I like him. Between Davis and Ridley.
If you're ruling out Pittman, you're not breaking the bank for Ridley, are you?
No.
This is
Between
the
Davis
longest
and
way
Ridley.
of saying that you're going to go Gabe Davis.
Gabe Davis edges it. He's younger, he's cheaper, and he's familiar with Dave's, which can only be a good thing. There you go. Gabe Davis for me.
Nice. To be honest,
right.
he's out of the three, he would be my preferred choice as well, to be honest. With the current situation.
Yeah, potentially. All right, that's my decision. So like it or lump it. Quarterbacks, producer Craig, over to you.
Is this a controversial start of maybe some in-division kind of shenanigans from me here? But I've gone for a bit of brisket to start things off here. A bit of Jacoby Brissett, firmly in that veteran stopgap bracket now as well as a pro. Probably be looking for his 5th team in as many years. Surprisingly, if you look at it as offensive PFF grade, though, it's slowly improved year on year. Though some years have had considerably less snaps than others. In his 8 years in the league, he's thrown 981 times for 10,574 yards, 51 touchdowns, and 23 interceptions. Now, last season, he had a brief 3-snap no-throw cameo in Week 13. And then he went back to the bench and wouldn't see the field again until he replaced Howell for the 4th quarter in Week 14. And then again in halfway through the 3rd quarter in Week 15. Now, during Howell's benching, Jacoby would throw 23 times, completing 18 of them for 224 yards and 3 touchdowns. But unfortunately, he would suffer a hamstring injury in practice between weeks 15 and 16 that kind of ended his season and ended any kind of cameo or audition that he would have had for other teams. Now, Brissett is a solid backup option and more than capable of them coming in if needed. But due to that being his kind of pigeonhole now, his projected kind of $6.5 million PFF price is kind of one of the higher backups. And considering we're pushing away from Tyrod because of being a higher backup, that could be a sticking point. Over to Shane for his pick.
Yeah, so I mean, I'll be honest with you, I didn't really want to pick a quarterback here. I thought they were all shit, but you know, that's another conversation.
Is that your technical terms, yeah?
Yeah. Just say what you think. Yeah, so I went here, controversial one, Sam Darnold. Well, 5 quarterbacks were took in 2018 in round 1. Sam Darnold's the only one who's got a ring. That's a fact. Just really spinning a fact there. Look, he's got one before Margin. Right, yeah. He's got one before Josh Allen. He's got one before Baker Mayfield. Josh Rosen we will talk about. But no, the reason I went for Sam Darnold is I think when you look at the disaster our baby brothers are having at quarterback position, they don't do very well with quarterbacks. So I think it's harsh to judge Sam Darnold based on his time with the Jets. And again, you could say the same for Carolina, but you know, look what they just did with Young this past off season. You know, this past season even. Sorry. So I think, you know, he's had a couple of tough landing spots with the Jets and with the Panthers. And this past season, he stepped onto the field for 46 attempts. He had decent arm strength and accuracy, and he finished with 297 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Now, the main reason why I went for Sam Darnold is, like I say, I think all the quarterbacks in free agency are shit this year, and I don't want to spend the money that's going to be required on him. So I think you can get Sam Darnold quite cheap, which is the mantra for the Giants at the minute, you know. And plus, ain't being funny. Why do we want to go spend loads of money on a quarterback? Daniel Jones gets injured as per, and then we get a quarterback that wins us 4 games that means meaningless, and then we end up pick 6 to 10 again. We're not going to get another draft. We're not going to get a rookie quarterback in the following year, am we? So we don't want to spend loads of money on a really good backup. So just get someone in who's going to be cheap. PFF and Sport Track ain't even got Sam Darnold on there. But 1 year, $5 million would be probably what it costs to get him.
Cheap, that's what we like. I've gone for someone maybe not so cheap, but someone's been in the limelight for a few years now, and that's Gardner Minshew. Minshew
Look at that
mania.
man.
Look at that. Yeah. Minshew mania was the talk of the NFL throughout the 2019 season, having been drafted 178th overall in 2019. Following Nick Foles' injury in week 1, he was thrust into the limelight for the Jags and what was a tough 2 seasons. But the impressive start he had in his rookie year was overshadowed by his pretty dire second injury-affected season. That led to him being traded to Philadelphia for a conditional 6th round pick in 21, where he filled in for Jalen Hurts when he was out injured. And then he finally signed a 1-year deal with the Colts last off-season. Last year, obviously, with Anthony Richardson, the rookie in Indy, and being named starting quarterback, it looked like he would be playing backup again. But what followed was obviously an injury-ravaged season for Anthony Richardson. And it paved the way for Minshew to pick up from where he began in Jacksonville and led the Colts to a 9-8 record, so which is quite impressive. And they only narrowly missed out in the postseason. 305 completions for 3,305 yards were both career highs. Completion percentage was 62.2%, throwing 15 touchdowns, only 9 interceptions in 17 games at 9.7 yards per attempt. His stats in 2023 are only going to boost his free agency value. It's like that his contract he'll want to sign a longer deal than he did in Indy. Projections at $5.3 million a year over 2 years, up to $8.75 million over 2 years for PFF. So it might be a bit more expensive for potentially a backup quarterback.
I just want to kind of point out before Kev makes his opinion that we are not being very well thought of in the comments right now. I think I'd rather bring back Tyrod than sign any of those 3. Not going to lie, I wouldn't take any of them, especially the upcoming draft class. And cheap and shit was another one.
Cheap and shit.
That's it, Kieran. 3 words to describe our selections.
That's Sam Darnold all over, isn't it? Cheap and shit.
Jamie's on the Minshew mania train.
Come on, Jamie, get on the Minshew bus.
Shane, there's been a question for you. Have you boarded the tank train already?
All I'm going to say is, if you get your tickets early, you get a discount.
I say, have you even got off the train?
Mate, I'm living on the train at the minute.
Conductor.
It's like a sleeper train for me. I'm just on it.
Love it. All right, Kev, who's our next backup quarterback? Brisket, Darnold, or Minshew?
Well, I must admit, the old Gardner Minshew mania was fun, seeing him play, just those flowing locks and some of his attire. I think, it just might be a bit too much of a show for us to sign. I think with Sam Darnold as well, if said back the day, there was people talking about taking Sam Darnold over Saquon Barkley. When that happened, imagine having the 2nd and 3rd round picks from that draft. It's just crazy. Although I do think it's a solid option, but for me, it has to be. It's quite an easy decision. Jacoby Brissett. He's 31 when the year starts. He's just been as a solid backup, never really contending. He can do enough to win you some games. He spent 4 years at the Colts as well, before Miami, Cleveland, and Washington. I just think he's the type of player to come in, be able to see you through games if needs be. You may even need him to start the first game of the season, depending how Jones's injury recovery goes and how we get on the draft selecting QBs. I think Holtby's saying there, what about Tannehill? I think Tannehill might be looking for a job where he could be like a starting, really on that thing of almost starting, as in really challenging in camp. So I don't think he'd be quite an option for us. Whereas I think someone like Brissett, he's had that career where he has been a solid backup, been able to win games, and it's going to be he'll understand his role if we did sign him.
Well, look at that. Producer Craig's 2 for 2.
That's nothing to be proud of. I'm going to be totally.
You're absolutely proud of it. It's fine.
Kev,
you can admit.
Kev, you can choose players that didn't play for the Colts. We can have all play.
I want Quentin Nelson, lads, as well. I want that big left guard to mull people over. I want them all.
So what we're saying is that the coaching staff are going Titans and Kev's going Colts.
There we go. Sounds. We're onto a winner, right? We're onto a winner. Alrighty then. On to tackle then. And who else would we start off with talking on the offensive line? Then Shane.
Love it.
Over to you, mate.
Shane begged to go first.
My favourite segment. So I chose Andrew Pete from the New Orleans Saints. Now he has predominantly played guard in his career, but this past season he did play. Got it here. I think it was all but 2 games. Sorry, at tackle. So he has got that tackle versatility. And the Athletic have even put him in a tackle group, mentioning that he's likely better than a lot of right tackles in the league as well. Now this past off season, he only allowed 2 sacks, 8 quarterback hits and 20 hurries. And throughout his career, he's allowed 138 hurries, 50 quarterback hits and 30 sacks. That's since 2015. Now, he missed the end of 2022 with an ankle injury. As they played 89% of his 809 snaps at left tackle this past season, and he put pretty decent numbers when he got going as well. He was flagged 6 times. I mean, I think I've already sold it here. When you compare the hits and hurries that Evan Neal gave up, and then the flags as well, it's already an upgrade, let's be honest. Now, in terms of cost, his injury streak could cost him. See what I did there? With PFF projecting a 1-year contract of $4 million. But, again, it's another position where I chose to spend a lot of money in wide receiver, so everyone else is just a little bit of, you'll do.
That's the enthusiasm I love.
Nice. Good. It's a good choice, Andrews Pete. I went for Jonah Williams of the Bengals. His first 3 years in Cincinnati were promising. Looking at the starting left tackle position and appearing in 43 of 49 games. It was the past off season that caused a little bit of friction as the Bengals traded for Orlando Brown, and it saw him request a trade before rescinding that trade request and then switching to right tackle, which obviously is where we need the help. And this was his first season at right tackle since he was at Alabama in 2016, and he managed to get by. He finished the season allowing 8 sacks, 10 quarterback hits, and 23 hurries, which might sound high, but considering the switch, it's kind of understandable. And obviously having a next or second year at right tackle, it would only help to improve those numbers. And considering as well, he only conceded 5 penalties as well. It's pretty impressive, as well as the 96.5% pass blocking efficiency, which is an astounding number. Cost as well, with reliable tackles being at a premium. His contract is likely to be around $16 million a year, according to PFF. Kev, who's your pick?
Right. Well, so I've gone for Jermaine Illuminor, ex-Raiders player. Now, the 29-year-old Londoner actually grew up playing rugby and cricket and became interested in the NFL after watching the Dolphins-Giants game at Wembley in 2007 on TV. And then he moved to the US with his dad. Now, he played for 3 teams in his 7 years in the league, but he's played his best football the past 3 years with the Raiders, especially the last 2 seasons. This stood out to me as he played under Giants' new offensive line coach, Carmen Brasillo. Firstly, he was the O-line coaching assistant at New England Patriots in 2019 when Illuminor was there. And then he was the actual offensive line coach for the past 2 seasons with the Raiders. Now, in the last season, looking at his stats, he gave up 28 total pressures, including 6 sacks, 16 hurries, with 779 of his 904 snaps coming at right tackle. He has played guard in previous seasons, so he has that guard tackle flexibility. His best performance of the year was actually against the Giants. We recorded an 83.2 offensive grade. In fact, his season grade of 68.5 was only bettered by Andrew Thomas of the Giants, and he was 30 above Evan Neal. So the cost, what would he cost us? The projected annual salary, according to PFF, is around $7.25 million per year on a 2-year contract. Now, I think he's the type of player who, not only can root for him as a homegrown type player, but also like he has familiarity with the new coaching staff, so there's a bit of trust already there. And the versatility will help as well, because it's almost like he could come in and you could have basically between him and Neil, right tackle spot, fight it out in camp, and whoever doesn't win could kick into guard. And at that price point as well, I do think he's sort of right in that wheelhouse for the Giants to be able to like bring a solid player and not for too much money. But it's up to Craig to pick the player. Who we going with, Pete, Williams, or Luminor?
It's interesting because I think I love all three of them in different ways. My only issue with Jonah is the price, just because of the fact that I think guard is more of our kind of target range, which is interesting because I get to choose the guard later, so I can't say that later. I have to remember that now.
Spoiler.
Yep.
And I think Williams will want to play left tackle as well.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, isn't it? Like, he was quite upset when Brown came in and obviously just did it because, well, he wanted to get paid and wasn't really going to sit out, and also wanted to be on the field to show what he could do, knowing full well that his contract year was coming. So he did do really well. Illuminor intrigues me, and I think the familiarity with Rosillo is a massive plus there, because he could almost become, plug and play, and because he's played those positions on the interior as well, that's a massive plus. But Pete gets the nod for me just because of the cost. I think that projected cost, 4 million, is really low, and even if you can get a year's good production, because he's been with the Saints has he been with the Saints his entire career? I think he has.
He has, yeah. He's drafted in the first round, and he's only 30 still.
Yeah, exactly. So if you could pick him up on a 1-year deal at 4 million and he performs, you could then just have him for another. Yeah, and then you could just have him for another couple of years as well. I mean, you don't want to see players sort of moved around and stuff like that and playing out of position, but to be able to do it as well as he has, especially coming off of an ankle injury, was really impressive. And Andreas Pete's also one of those players that I actually know quite well because of Anna being a Saints fan. So it always helps when you've got a bit more familiarity. I don't know if any of you want to pick up on this, but Tyron Smith is what Steve Wilkins has asked. Did anybody ever think about Smith?
Yes, but I just think he's a left tackle, career left tackle. He's just turned 33. I think he'll be looking for quite a substantial amount of money. He's still, Hills at Whitworth showed that you can play well into your 30s and be very, very productive. I think, he might want to go back to Dallas, but I think he'll want one last sort of big payday. And again, he is I believe, a career left tackle.
Jamie's just said we're shopping an Aldi, unfortunately, when others are in Waitrose, which is a cracking British analogy.
What's
I love that. But yeah, no, I Waitrose. What is this word you talk of? None of us know this shop. Yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. Yeah, career, like you said, career left tackle. Obviously, we're predominantly looking at the right side, so he's, and money wise as well, probably going to be too expensive. So that's why for Smith he's not the one for me. I'd love to say yes because he's a fantastic tackle, but I think money and his position of choice would be a no. How do you sell snack helmets though? You're not wrong, Holly. You're not wrong.
I got mine in Aldi and I haven't opened it yet. And that was like 4 years ago.
Hey, you'd probably be able to sell that for a fortune on eBay. An unopened snack helmet. Wowza. All right, then. Going to move on to defense for the first time. We're looking at edge. And I think I'm up first, aren't I?
You are indeed.
Yeah, boy, Dan.
So I went for someone that's just had a phenomenal season in my eyes. Josh Allen from the Jaguars. He had a pretty strong rookie season. But he obviously had an injury in 2020, which sort of slowed his production down. But since then, he's slowly sort of produced year after year, recording career highs each season. Going into next year, he's totaled 48 sacks, 69 quarterback hits, 171 hurries, with 9 forced fumbles and 2 interceptions. I mean, those numbers alone stand off the page. Last year, his improvement, like I said, it exploded. Recorded 19 sacks, 17 QB hits, 54 hurries, 17 tackles for loss, 2 forced fumbles, and an interception of Jake Browning from the Cincinnati Bengals. He also finished 7th in pass rush win rate, pressuring the quarterback an astonishing 20% of the time. The annoying thing is, though, it's very, very likely that the Jags are going to slap the tag on him, which I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because he's too good of a talent to let go in free agency. The tag's going to be around to the $22-23 million mark. His projected contract is around $24 million a year for 5 years, which is obviously very expensive. But to have a premium edge rusher like Josh Allen and then have Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side be a scary, scary duo in my eyes. So yeah, Josh Allen for me. Kev, someone that's used to playing at MetLife.
Yeah, that's Josh Allen's a great pick. You mean the player that was sitting there at 6 in the Daniel Jones draft that we could have picked up, and we decided to go QB instead. That guy, the awesome player. Anywho, moving on to this year and players that we actually, could come in and do a job. I'm going to go with Bryce Huff, New York Jets ex-player. Like you said, he's familiar to MetLife. This is the 25-year-old. He was undrafted, free agent back in 2020. He slowly honed his craft, improving year on year, being an undrafted free agent, getting to where he is now. Despite limited snaps, he's more likely he will get rewarded in free agency. I mean, he's 134 total pressures in his 4 seasons, as well as 20 sacks and 28 quarterback hits. Now, last season, Huff was given more snaps in the previous years, but he still only had less than 50% of snaps on defense. But despite this, he rewarded the Jets by leading in sacks with 10 and quarterback hits with 12, while finishing 3rd in tackles for loss with 10. He also recorded an impressive 22.8% win rate, which is ranked 3rd among all pass rushers with at least 200 attempts. Now, what the cost to get this player would be, it seems there's a bit of disparity between Spotrac and PFF on Huff's value. Spotrac's having a projection of $9.2 million per year in a 4-year contract, where PFF has it more of the $16.6 per million per year on a 3-year contract. Now, I think he'll kind of come in around 12 to 13, around that, more towards the PFF. But definitely that's the type of price point for a pass rusher that I think can excel, and he's on the right trajectory. And like I said, he's still currently only 25 years of age, and he's going in the right direction. And being able to pair him along with the kinds of Kayvon Thibodeau on the other side, I think it would be great bit of business if we were able to get him in. But there's another one to come. And who's that, Craig?
I'm going back to my in-division sauciness, I think is the way to put it. Though he's not actually...
In-division sauciness.
Yeah, in-division sauciness. But the funny thing is he's not even in division anymore. But there is some Giants history here. So I have gone for Chase Young. It's been just over 4 years since the Chase Young Bowl that saw the Commanders lose to the Giants and select Young with the 2nd overall pick. That first year, Young was an absolute pressure machine with 30 hurries, 6 quarterback hits, and 6 sacks. 2021, however, saw a slower start from Young before he tore his ACL in week 10. He would not return to the field until week 16 of 2022 and struggled to make an impact for obvious reasons, and the fact that he's coming into the season pretty much at the tail end. Last season saw Chase return to form as he recorded 6 sacks and 5 quarterback hits between week 1 and week 8 before a trade from the divisional rival Commanders to the 49ers materialized. First few weeks at the Niners, he started strong, 2 sacks in his first 2 games with his new team, but he would then see stretches with not a lot happening. He finished strong though with a sack and a quarterback hit in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes. Young finished the season with multiple career highs, 11 sacks, 9 quarterback hits, and 54 total hurries. Both Spotrac and PFF see 1 year prove it deal in his future, with the projection between kind of 13 and 15 million for that 1 year deal. So over to Shane to try and pick the bones out of these three and who he would go for.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I think it's pretty easy. When I'm taking Josh Allen all day long, should have been drafted back in 2019. I'm not going to comment any more on that because I'll go on to a rant. I think Bryce Huff and Chase Young. I think Bryce Huff is quite underrated in the league, to be honest with you. I think he's a very good edge rusher that doesn't get the acknowledgement that he deserves. Chase Young's always been one that's kind of flattered to deceive a little bit. Obviously, he's had his injury issues. And, you think about it now, like you mentioned, the Chase Young Bowl, and I don't think any of us would swap Chase Young for Andrew Thomas kind of 4 or 5 years later. But yeah, I think just the thought of Thibodeau, Josh Allen, and Aziz in a rotation, like, yeah, man, like I'm getting hungry. Like, just sign me up to that.
Pay the man, pay him. You know what? I like both of the other two as well, and I think Bryce Huff would be, like you said, it's a really sweet number. It's sort of in terms of his contract. Obviously, if we're looking at potentially cap issues, and maybe Bryce Huff might be the one to go. But yeah, Josh Allen, man, how sweet would that be? All right, then. Back
I will
on.
say just quickly.
Aaron.
Sorry, Dan. Sorry for
That's right.
interrupting. Just want to remember, that the number for Chase Young, it does seem like a lot, as in, like, paying out 13 to 15 million for 1 year. But just bear in mind there is ways to get around that with void years. So you could have in there for 1 year, like we did with Ashawn Robinson last year. He only counted against the cap for 3 million, but we paid him 5 million because we had the 2 million in void coming in this year. So just be mindful of that. It's like, just say, although it seems like a big number, it's possible to get him on the books for a little bit less on the cap. That's all. Sorry.
Let's also just point out as well that all of these numbers that we're kind of pushing out there are from PFF and Spotrac if they're available on there. But there's other ways that you can get around this. Incentive laden contracts are a really, really good idea for somebody who's on a 1 year prove it deal, where you're actually kind of gambling on them hitting, sometimes realistic, sometimes unrealistic goals. And that's how you can really entice a player in sometimes, is just giving them that little extra incentive that you want them to get, and you get the rewards out of it because they're going to play well to be able to get there.
And Joe Sheehan's shown in the past that he loves putting incentives into deals.
Exactly.
Absolutely. All right, then, back on offense. Who's going to back up Saquon in the backfield, Kev?
I think Kev's mic's just gone.
Earth to Kev. Kev to Earth. We can't hear you.
See if we can. Shall I spoil mine, and I'll go through mine while Kev's mic sorts himself out. So mine is Gus Edwards from the Ravens. Edwards spent 5 years with the Ravens after signing as an undrafted free agent in 2018. And outside of 2022, has averaged around 160 snaps and 780 yards a season. Although he's slightly older as a running back at 29, he's actually played half the snaps of most of the top running backs in free agent cycle, including Saquon Barkley, and still has the power and agility you'd want from a younger back. Plus, he has this really innate knack of falling forward every time he seems to touch the ball. Edwards appeared in all 19 games in 2023 that the Ravens played, and for the first time in his career, he actually played in every game since not the first time in his career, for the first time since 2020, he played in every game. And he statistically had his best year as a pro, which seems to be a running theme with a lot of these people that we've chosen, is trying to get them while they're high. 211 attempts for 870 yards, 13 touchdowns. However, Unfortunately, 3 fumbles as well. All career highs for Gus the Bus. Amazingly, though, 13 touchdowns this year, which is double his entire total
Jeff.
before. Spottrack have Edwards calculated market value at 3.6 million on a 1-year deal, so slightly on the cheaper side. Ground control to Kev. Are you back in the land of the living?
1 2 1 2. Testing.
Yes,
1
he
2.
is. Yes, he is.
Loud and clear, Kevin. Loud and clear.
Go on then.
I do apologise for that, gents.
It's been spoiled, but you can crack on with your running back selection.
Did you hear anything I said?
No.
Oh, fantastic! Because I made such a bad joke as well, so I think I'll leave that one alone. I won't go back to it.
No,
But
you've got to repeat it. Come on.
it was just along the lines of you're saying who's going to back up Saquon in the backfield, and I said, well, this will be awkward because your new starting running back for the New York Football Giants will be
there we go.
Devin Singletary, the ex-Texans players. Now he played 4 years in Buffalo. And then he tested the waters in free agency last year for the first time. And he picked up a 1-year deal for $2.75 million with the Texans. Now, he's currently 24 years of age, drafted in the 3rd round of the 2019 draft by the Bills and the assistant GM at the time, Joe Sheehan. During the time in the NFL, Singletary has 4,438 yards, 24 touchdowns, and 14 fumbles. One thing worth bearing in mind is that despite always leading the team he's on in yards, he's always been a co-back. He's always shared the backfield. He shared the load with multiple players during his 4 years with the Bills and split with Damon Pierce last season in Houston. Now, could he come in if Saquon wasn't here and be sharing the load with an Eric Gray, who might be able to take advantage of no Saquon Barkley? But in 2023, Singletary appeared in all 19 games for the Texans last season, recording 986 yards, 686 after contact, 5 touchdowns, and 1 fumble. And in the receiving game, he was targeted 45 times, hauling in 38 catches for 245 yards. Now, how much would it cost to sort of bring this type of player in? Now, after signing a 1-year deal last year, I think he'd be after more of a multi-year deal coming around this time around. But I think you could get him for about 3 years around the 4-5 million mark, so he wouldn't break the bank. And he could come in and, like I said, Joe Sheehan knows the player well, so it might be might be able to know what he's getting. It would be interesting to bring someone like that in. Sorry, over to Sheehan now for Sheehan's pick.
Yeah, so I was torn between kind of 2 players here. In the end, I ended up going for AJ Dillon from Green Bay, just because the other player I was debating has had a few injury issues. Dillon's been with Green Bay for 4 years, and he's kind of evolved from being a back behind Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams to a little bit of a 1-2 punch with Aaron Jones. He's a bit of a churner. He forces the first defender to meet him backwards to gain the extra yard. You do get that physicality, and I think that's what we've been missing, to be honest. From some of the backups that we've had behind Saquon, we've not really had someone who's going to be physical and get them yards after contact. His career has seen him rush 612 times for 2,496 yards, 17 touchdowns, and 4 fumbles. It's also worth noting he's never had more than 200. He's never had 200 or more attempts in a single season. So there's plenty of tread left on the tire, as they say, in regards to running backs. In regards to his 2023 season, he had a slight decline. His slightly lower number of year-on-year touches would have had an impact on that. He rushed for 178 attempts for 613 yards, averaging 3.4 per attempt. Got the end zone twice and recorded his first fumble-free season. And he also had 479 yards after contact as well. Saquon was in the 700 area. So, he's not a million miles from what Saquon was getting in terms of yards after contact. In the receiving game, he had 223 yards on 22 catches. In regards to contract and his cost, he's not believed going to be a bank breaker. According to PFF, they've predicted a 2-year deal at $4 million a year. Spottrack have his value at $3.5 million for 1 year, so kind of in around that kind of $3 million range, you'd imagine.
Nice. Three decent backs there, to be fair.
There's a couple of comments that are just worth bringing up before you make your decision. Holty's gone superstitious. Same number as Saquon as well. It's a signing, Kev. And Jamie's put, I like Dylan, need to keep the huge quads going for running backs. I mean, we could go from Saquads to Quadzilla, as I'm pretty sure AJ Dillon is known.
I believe so, yeah.
I've also seen players like Zach Moss being linked to the Giants with connection with Dable and Sheehan, but also J.K. Dobbins and DeAndre Swift have been sort of linked with 1-year prove-it deals to the Giants. I mean, I'm not necessarily advocating for them, but just interesting names to remember.
Sorry, Dan.
No worries, it's all good. I mean, this is going to be based off of one of two things, isn't it? If we re-sign Saquon or we don't. So if we re-sign Saquon, I'm going AJ Dillon. If we don't re-sign Saquon, I'm going Devin Singletary. So it's almost like a two-headed beast, really.
Beautiful fence you're sitting on there.
Yeah, I think we re-sign Saquon, and I'm taking AJ Dillon. I like Gus Edwards, but I think he's more suited to an offense where he's a feature back. Because I mean, obviously with Lamar as well, he's some phenomenal numbers there. But AJ Dillon for the money and the fact that he likes to form that sort of 1-2 punch with another back, and Quadzilla and Saquads in the backfield for the Giants. What's not to love about that, right? So yeah, AJ Dillon for me, and we'll re-sign Saquon.
I'll tell you what, I was getting on over the thought of pairing Josh Allen, mate. Put AJ with Saquon, and I mean all you can eat.
100%, mate. 100%.
Even if it comes at the expense of our mate Gary. Or would you ship him off already?
Gary will understand.
Yeah, he'll definitely understand. I'm sure he would. But yeah, there we go. Spoiler alert: we re-sign Saquon. Boom, boom, boom. Who are we on? What are we on to next? Let's have a look at my sheet. We are on to corner. Craig, back to defense. Over to you.
It is. I have gone for a journeyman veteran in Ronald Darby. Might not be an exciting choice. And outside of a ropey season in 2019 across in Philly, he's actually largely performed well with an average PFF defensive grade of around 67.8 across his 9 seasons. He's played 3,789 coverage snaps and given up 4,843 yards, 26 touchdowns, and has 8 interceptions. Now, in 2023, Darby was recovering from an ACL tear suffered in 2022, and Ravens had him in rotation with Marlon Humphrey and another cornerback that I won't name right now. In 385 coverage snaps, Darby has had a 51.7% reception allowed rate, allowed 353 yards, 106 after catch, 5 pass breakups, and allowed 1 touchdown. Cost-wise, PFF had the vet commanding a 1-year, $2.5 million contract that would likely be loaded with incentives. Shane, any idea who he was in the backfield with?
Not a
I
clue.
wonder.
Might be the player I'm going to pick, Rocky Sin from the Ravens. This is a little bit like the quarterback situation. I looked at the corners and I thought they're all shit, and I just thought I'll just have Rocky Sin. It's a cool name. And to be fair, I thought I'd take a leaf out of Kev's book, and he's an ex-Colt, so why not? Speaking of the Colts, he was a second-round pick for the Colts back in 2019. He spent 3 years in Indy before he headed to the Raiders as part of the Yannick Ngakoue trade. After 1 year in Vegas, he then signed a year deal with Baltimore. In total, in 5 seasons, he's had 2 interceptions, 24 pass breakups, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries, 171 solo tackles, and has allowed 10 touchdowns. In regards to his 2023 season, he had limited opportunities as a pre-season knee injury put him behind Marlon Humphrey and the mentioned Ronald Darby. He only ended up playing 180 coverage snaps and he allowed 11 catches at a rate of 55%. That was 176 yards and 4 pass breakups, and he gave up 2 touchdowns, but he was one of only 2 cornerbacks to not miss a tackle all season. And again, just to show how much like I thought about this, he's not even got a projection, a little bit like Sam Darnold again. But he's probably not going to get anywhere near the $4 million contract that he got last off season.
And let's face it, Ravens defenders are usually fairly good, right? I haven't gone for a Raven. I've gone for a Chief. L'Jarius Sneed. He spent 4 years, the first 4 years of his career in Kansas City. He's going to be testing free agency for the first time. He's won back-to-back Super Bowls. It's no surprise to see him ranked in the top 10 free agents according to PFF. Primarily a slot corner in his first 3 seasons. Spags moved him outside in 2023. His coverage grading of 73.8 may not sound too high. However, with the Giants looking to potentially replace Adoree Jackson, whose coverage grade was 45.9 last season, it would be a marked improvement on what Adoree's 2023 performance was. His 11 penalties this past season, however, is concerning, with 3 holding and 5 PI flags thrown against him. But on the positive side, he only allowed 2 touchdowns on 102 targets, and with a 52% reception rate, coupled with 2 interceptions, means he's fairly likely to be snapped up pretty quickly once free agency opens, if the Chiefs don't decide to re-sign him. And with Sneed being one of the top corners available in free agency, it's likely that he will command a healthy salary, which may work against us because chances are we probably won't be able to afford him. But anyway, regardless, his projected contract, 3 years at $17.5 million per year. That's according to PFF, where Sportrack have it at 4 years, $16.3 million a year. So yeah, big money, but a pretty decent corner. Who's replacing Adoree then, Kev?
I don't believe it will be Adoree. That's what I mean. I don't think Adoree will be replacing himself because I think we will move on. I mean, 3 good players. Actually, I think I like Rocky Sin a little bit more than Shane does, to be honest. I think he could be quite a solid player to come in. But I think L'Jarius Sneed will look for that massive payday, and I think someone will be stupid enough to give it to him. I'm looking at this as in I'm hoping that the young cornerback we have on the roster can turn into lockdown Larry. Trey Hawkins III. I'm hoping he can actually develop into something. So I actually really like the pick of Ronald Darby coming in. Like, he's still only 30 years of age, which is quite young in NFL terms. And I think he could be the presence to come in and just be really solid opposite Banks, and Banks actually develop into our number 1 cornerback, and Ronald Darby can come in and do a job while Trey Hawkins develops sort of, behind that. So that's who I'm picking. Ronald Darby, the ex-Eagle. Ooh.
Interesting, because I mean, at the price, you could probably get a little cheeky twofer there, couldn't you, with Darby and Rock Sin, and add 2 pretty decent, veteran cornerbacks in let's face it, a cornerback room that's very young.
Very true. And just another name to watch out for is again, you're making the connection here, but ex-Titans cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting, he's only 26. I think PFF have him a projected 1 year, $4 million kind of prove it deal. Could he come in knowing the system already, Jim Bowen's system? That could be another name just to look out for.
Plenty of choices, but yeah, I like your choice of Ronald Darby there. Back to the O-line then, there's no surprise in who's up first.
It wasn't planned like this, Shane, I promise.
Been set up here. I just realised...
Lies.
I've been chatting a little bit of bullshit because I've been on about, my money's going on the wide receiver, and I forgot about my O-line. So, yeah, I've gone for Robert Hunt, who's a free agent after being drafted and playing the last 4 years with Miami Dolphins. Second round selection in 2020. He played every game until his streak broke in week 9 this past season. He's a very physical right guard, which is kind of the position that we need. Hopefully, Glowinski's not going to be back, and no one wants to Shane Lemieux at right guard, do they? So, let's go and get Robert Hunt, in my opinion. He uses his size and strength in pass protection. He's very consistent in the run game as well. In 3,609 snaps, he has an above 70 PFF grade in both pass blocking and run blocking. Pass blocking, he's allowed 61 hurries, 13 quarterback hits, and 9 sacks in his career. In regards to 2023, he's having a very solid season until he got a hamstring injury in week 8 that saw him miss 4 weeks in total. He returned in week 13 with a season best performance, but was then out till week 18 with a reoccurrence of the hamstring injury. Obviously, we know these hamstring injuries, if they're not cleared up properly, can reoccur a couple of weeks later, and unfortunately, that's what happened for him. But he still appeared in 11 games this past season, allowing 3 hurries, 1 quarterback hit, 1 sack, and 2 penalties. And over the last 2 seasons, in both pass blocking and run blocking, his worst grade was a 74.4. In terms of cost, it's believed he's going to be one of the premier interior offensive line players available. He's only 27 years old. PFF predicts a 4-year contract with an average per year of 17.5 million. Spot Track has got a little bit lower at 11.8 million.
Wowza. I went for Kevin Dotson of the Rams. He spent the first 3 years of his career in the league with Pittsburgh. He led the team in rankings in each of those years in pass blocking with an average of 81.0 pass blocking grade according to PFF. He lined up at left guard majority of the time with the Steelers. And he's testing free agency for the first time. He was traded to the Rams last year and switched to right guard in Sean McVay's offense. And he excelled in run blocking, which is, a big weakness of ours on the offensive line. Being the second highest ranked guard according to PFF with an 88.3 run blocking grading throughout the whole season last year. But it was his pass protection, though, which, although it was still solid, he did allow career highs in pressures, hurries, quarterback hits, and sacks. Cost, as usual, offensive lineman command a premium when it comes to money, and it's no surprise that Dotson is going to command big money as well. PFF projects his contract with a 4-year, $69 million deal, earning him $17.25 million a year, and Spot Track projects a slightly lower number. 4 years, it's 16.4 per year. Whoever picks him up, along with Robert Hunt as well, they are going to have to pay big money for them. So, yeah, Kevin Dotson for me. Kevin, you got?
I think he's on mute.
Kev, you're on mute.
He is still on mute.
Kev, you're on mute.
Hello.
There he is.
There we go.
Like that, lads. I
That's
was
all
doing
right.
so well there as well. So, anyway, I've gone for Damian Lewis from the Seattle Seahawks. 3rd round pick in the 2020 season. He's out of LSU. He's been a consistent lineman in Seattle over that period of time. 27-year-old now. And for the 4 years since his week 1 starting debut, he's logged 3,720 snaps, with almost all being at left guard, apart from 66 snaps. Over that time, he's allowed 11 sacks, 13 quarterback hits, and 28 penalties. However, he is steadily reducing those season by season. Last season, Lewis missed a single game this past year with an ankle injury suffered against the Giants in week 4. But the ankle didn't hamper him recording another stellar season. In 610 pass blocking snaps, he allowed 3 sacks, 1 quarterback hit, and 25 hurries. He also recorded a 97.2 pass blocking efficiency, which is equal to Andrew Thomas. Now, for all those stats, he's actually coming in at quite an affordable price. PFF have him at around 10.5 million per year, and Spotrac have him at around 7.4 million per year. So if you wanted to go for that like above average type guard who you can plug and play, but he won't break the bank, Damian Lewis is that type of player for us. But again, we have to come back to Craig because it's your decision to make.
And I think
It
Craig,
is.
you're the new O-line guru, aren't you?
Apparently so, and I will take that mantra. I'll get hats printed, and I will take it. I will.
Go on.
Shane will be happy. You take it.
Yeah, I was going to say Shane's not exactly going to try and keep hold of it from me, so I'll have it. The new offensive line guru. Anyway, this I actually think this is the most difficult choice out of every single choice we have, mainly because it's such a high positional need. Now, obviously, the list of positional needs we've used are kind of blanketed across free agency and the draft, and I do think that this here is the premier aim in free agency where the money should be spent, and you'd almost have any of them. Like I could quite easily just go all three. Let's move on, but obviously I've got to choose one of them. Damian Lewis. If Damian Lewis ends up coming to the Giants, I hope it's because we've been priced out of the other two, and I don't mean that in a harsh way. I just mean that in like I would very happily have Damian Lewis, but I want to explore the other two options and then maybe go, okay, that's too rich for us. We'll go with Lewis, knowing full well that he can plug and play. I almost. Is it just me, or does that picture of Robert Hunt make him look like an absolute wardrobe? Just
he's a unit, isn't he?
He's spilled over the picture, like he's too big for the frame, sort of thing. I do really like Hunt, and the fact that he's only 27 as well. You've got him for a while. I'm not sure. Does anybody have Dotson's age to hand? I can't imagine he's much older.
No, Dotson's 27.
He's 27 as well. So, it's a flavour thing, isn't it? Do you want somebody who maybe didn't have a great game in pass protection, though still being solid and being that premier kind of run defender, or do you want somebody who can really do sort of a bit of both? But is coming off of a year where he had hamstring, a couple of hamstring problems, and we know what can happen. But unlike Darren Waller, he doesn't need to run down the field. At least we hope he doesn't.
I mean, he'll be ineligible if he does.
Yeah, very true, very true. Or he'll be chasing something the other way, which is not something we want to see too many times.
No. Like a field.
Like a field goal, yeah. Thanks, Shane. PTSD in
Too soon.
90% of our listeners. I'm going to go for Robert Hunt.
Go big or go home.
Yeah, he's just a monster, isn't he? He's so physical, and his size just kind of gives you that proper anchor. You think of him next to JMS, next to hopefully somebody else, because I don't really think we've got any other guards that I want to see on a football field next year.
He has also played right tackle for the Miami Dolphins as well.
So so the versatility there is pretty handy, especially if we don't address that tackle position in free agency. So
Robert Hunt.
Yeah, Hunt is my guess, and Keith's agreed with Kev. Lewis looks the most affordable of the bunch. Back to our Audi not Waitrose comment there, I think.
There we go. I mean, it does all come down to the money at the end of the day, doesn't it? Because we've got to be winning the cap. Alrighty then. Last but by no means least, we're going to talk safety. And Kev, you're up. And no, Julian Love is not an option.
Okay, Julian Love is not an option, and you've hurt me now, Dan, because I'm feeling pain now. Okay, because you didn't have to bring that up, but you did. And that was a choice that you made. Thank you very much. So instead,
he's always an option. Once a Giant, always a Giant. Come on,
So instead, I shall go after Haloe Gilman, who played for the Chargers, but before that was a Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Yes, he was. Of course, he went to Notre Dame. Had to get one of them on the list. So I've gone from Haloe Gilman, who actually played for the Naval Academy before transferring to Notre Dame. But anyway, he spent 4 years of his first 4 years of his career he spent all of his career with the Chargers, but he slowly increased his playing time year on year, and he was always a solid contributor. After limited opportunities in 2020, the Chargers used Gilman in 21 and 22 in the backup rotation to Adderley, and Derwin James. And it performed well, forcing a fumble, snagging a couple of interceptions, and making 72 tackles. But last season, with Adderley's shock retirement in March 23, this saw Gilman promoted to starting safety, and he more than took the opportunity to shine. With a career-high 928 snaps, Gilman recorded 56 tackles, 3 forced fumbles, 2 interceptions, and 7 pass breakups. He prominently played in the box, allowing 22 catches on 34 targets for 292 yards, recording an 89.2 coverage grade, only bettered by 4 players. This is the type of player you want to bring in who's sort of ascending, and he's starting to show what he actually can do. He was an absolute rocket playing for Notre Dame, by far one of our best players, a tackling machine, and also was able to make plays in the air. But due to his limited starting opportunities, teams will probably want to see a little bit more of a Gilman before giving him a long-term contract. And PFF have him at around $2.67 million for a 1-year prove-it deal. So, Dan, are you going to go for shopping Aldi with me, or are you going to Waitrose? Let's find out.
Mate, I'm not going Waitrose, I'm going Harrods. Why not? Go big or go home, right?
Like it.
Antoine Winfield Jr. I mean, there's not really much more to say about the guy that hasn't already been said by every critic and every analyst out there. He's one of those sort of generational defensive backs that can line up in the box, in the slot. He can make a play when he needs to, where he needs to, and he's just an extremely impressive defender. Was obviously drafted in 2020 in the second round out of Minnesota, and he is going to be the benchmark when it comes to safety salaries this year, and he should and probably will be one of the top 5 earners at the position once free agency is done and dusted. Whether that's on the Giants or not, probably not, but there we go. It was a personal best season for him last year in terms of PFF grading, having a 90.4 defensive grade and ranking him second amongst all safeties in the league. His total of 20 quarterback pressures, 6 sacks, 3 quarterback hits, and along with 11 hurries, all by far career best for him as well. He allowed a career high 418 receiving yards on 31 receptions, with 162 of those coming after the catch. But his worst rating on the season, though, came when it really mattered in the wildcard game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, that's sort of PFF grading. Cost, like I said, he's going to set the benchmark when it comes to safety salaries this offseason. It's likely that Tampa will slap the franchise tag on him. It makes more sense for them to tag Winfield than for them to tag the likes of Baker Mayfield, because the tag for a quarterback is going to be double that of what it is going to be for a safety. So it's going to be looking at around $18 million for a safety this year. His projected contract, Spot Track have it at 5 years for $92 million. That's around $18.4 million per year. It's big money, but he's absolutely worth it. And like I said, go big or go home. So yeah, he's my pick. Shane, the last one is yours. Over to you.
No, it's not. It's me.
Is it not? It's Craig, isn't it? That's what I mean. Craig, it's over to you. The last pick is yours.
So
Shane is picking overall. I know.
Yes. Yeah. So Kev's gone Aldi, Dan's gone Harrods. I'm sitting in the kind of Tesco Sainsbury's-esque level here.
Nice.
And also, I seem to like the Ravens backfield because I've gone for Geno Stone. 2020 Stone, 2020 Stone spent his first season with Baltimore as a bit part player, racking up 40 total snaps. In the years since, though, his influence has slowly ramped up, and then in 2022 he had to step in for the injured Marcus Williams, only allowing 8 receptions during that season. Stone has also been an ever-present on special teams for the Ravens, so he has plenty of experience there. 2023, prior to the season, the Ravens let Stone's restricted free agent tender kind of expire and then quickly snapped him up to a slightly lower cap hit deal once that market opened. Stone outperformed his contract pretty damn quickly, though. He racked up 1,000 snaps last year, recording a career high grade in coverage. He also recorded 50 tackles, 3 hurries, a pass breakup, allowed 193 yards and 2 touchdowns. But his 7 interceptions on the season were second in the league and led all safeties and cornerbacks in the AFC. Now, because it was kind of this year that he has really come into his own, his projected contract is slightly lower than probably most of the players who will be in front of him, players like Winfield and McKinney. He's got 6.5 million per year for 2 years on PFF, whereas Spot Track are slightly higher at 7.2 million. So there you go, Shane. Winfield, Stone, or Gilman?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I'm from the Black Country. I'm going to Harrods all day long. It's what we do. Why not? It's out more money at the end of the day. But no, I do think Winfield's probably the best of the three there. Obviously, he's the premier player, probably in the safety free agency, maybe McKinney as well. But I do feel like he's probably going to be the best player that we can get if we can't retain McKinney. I think they share a lot of similarities, and Antoine Winfield Jr. is a player I absolutely love. I think his quality, and just seeing him in blue would be awesome. So, yeah, Dan, I'll pick you up and we'll go to Harrods, mate.
Yeah, let's go shopping in Harrods, mate. Knightsbridge, here we come. Love it. I mean, it's going to be expensive, but you got to spend big to win big, right?
I just feel like at that price point, would you rather keep your homegrown talent than McKinney?
No. The stuff he's been tweeting the last couple of days, I'm like, what you did? Put your phone down. What are you doing?
Shane, this might be one for you just to kind of translate for us from Steve. You'd rather go to KFC than Dixie's?
Yeah,
Dixie's chicken.
Is that completely off topic? Is that the one that was by our hotel? That was underneath our hotel in Birmingham? Dixie's chicken.
Yeah, might have been. I don't know. There's a few dotted around.
Is that one of those?
It's good when you're pissed.
Is that one of those beautiful hairy chicken chops?
Yeah, man. Right, banging. When you're pissed, banging chicken. You usually get to see a scrap afterwards as well, so you get free entertainment.
God, food and entertainment. What a night,
mate! It sounds like Chicken Cottage, doesn't it? Chicken Cottage or FKC or something.
Chicken Cottage has got to be one of the worst named chicken restaurants I've ever heard in my life.
I know. There are other fried chicken establishments available out there, not just these ones we mentioned.
I love that. Come here for the free agency talk. Stay for the hairy chicken talk.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, sorry, listeners, for the chicken shop podcast episode this week.
We have Sam's down here, by the way. Our local is Sam's Chicken. Sam's Chicken and Ribs.
There is one on Broad Street. Shane's describing that one.
Is that one of the one in Chinatown? Or get a fight, it's great.
Mate, you can't complain.
Don't condone fighting, just to be clear.
Chicken and entertainment. What a good night that is, eh?
The chicken ain't that good, it's worth fighting over, believe me.
That's a selling point in itself, surely.
I mean, there we go. Tangent. Episode's gone off on the wayside now.
That's it.
It always happens around this time, doesn't it?
You're not wrong. All right. We're building a great roster by the sounds of it, with all those decisions we made. But let's have a quick look at the other positions. So, like I said, they're not necessarily as important in terms of our needs, but there's no harm in building depth at those positions. Shane, over to you first with the D line.
Yes, so obviously on the defensive line, we've got Dexter Lawrence, Nunez Roches, Jordan Riley, and DJ Davidson under contract. So the need isn't as high as others. However, we could probably just do adding a little bit of depth there. Just sort of 3 players we've kind of picked out. You've got Grover Stewart, Colts. What is it with the Colts? Grover missed 6 games in the middle of the season due to a PED suspension. Great. But, his play on the field saw him ranked joint 19th. No wonder if he's had a PED suspension, he's going to be high. You know, so fifth defensive grade thanks to a top 6 running defense. The episode's just on there. That's it. Like,
It's all gone down the drain.
Chicken chicken mode.
yeah, I'm going about chickens, fights, and PEDs. I mean, it's going to be like an interesting dream tonight when I go to bed in about 10 minutes' time. Sheldon Rankins is another alternative from the New York Jets. He's kind of the opposite of Stewart, in being more of a pass rushing lineman than a run stuffer. 842 qualifying lineman. His 38.2 run defense grade was in the bottom 20 at the position. Maybe he should take PEDs, it'll be better. And then lastly, we've got T.A. Tart, who was with the Titans and Texans. He had a bit of a falling out with the Titans over an extension. He was then waived in week 15 due to a lack of effort. Just what we need. And then the Texans beat 2 other teams to his signing. However, he wasn't using anger. His grades were about average at the position, despite the low effort.
Three top talents there to keep an eye on, by the sounds of it.
Absolutely.
Thanks for that, Shane. Craig, tight ends.
Yes. So I have 3 there on the screen. The Giants have talent with Waller and Bellinger, but with Cager going, probably need a third one, especially with Waller's injury history, that need a little bit of backup just in case. The draft is probably the more likely option, but there are here are 3 sort of cheaper alternatives. Hunter Henry from the Patriots, 7-year vet, been consistent in his 3 years at the Patriots, averaging 510 yards a season and 6 touchdowns. While in the blocking game, he's only allowed 7 pressures on 106 blocking opportunities. Gerald Everett from the Chargers, another 7-year vet, shared snaps with Parham Jr. at the Chargers, but was still able to record 411 yards, 3 touchdowns. Everett has a knack of forcing missed tackles with 28 since 2022, the second most amongst tight ends. And Austin Hooper from the Raiders. Hooper had to play a backup role to rookie Mayer this past season, and as such recorded his lowest target since his rookie year. His 234 yards were also his lowest season total. Plus, he also had his first ever 0 touchdown season. Obviously, doesn't sound great on paper, but bear in mind, reduced snaps will kind of do that. Kev, have you gone rogue here for linebacker?
Yes, I have.
Shall I quickly run through the 3 and then you can have your piecemeal? We'll do that. So the 3 that we had earmarked were Levante David from the Buccaneers, Bobby Wagner from the Seahawks, and Azeez Al-Shahir from the Titans. David has spent 12 years with the Bucs. Wagner is a future Hall of Fame tackling machine after 12 seasons. So both 2 big vets there. Al-Shahir is probably more of a link because of the Titans links that we have on our defensive staff as well. But he had 1,101 snaps last year, which was a massive step up from 313 the year before. And obviously we potentially might need somebody just in case McFadden regresses after his surprisingly good season. You kind of hope that there's consistency there, but you never know. Kev, who are your rogue picks then?
Well, I stayed with, I kind of looked at the Levante David and Bobby Wagner and just thought that they fit what we're trying to do, whereas everyone else we talked about kind of fit what we want to do, whereas I didn't really think they did. But I've stayed with Azeez Al-Shahir because I do think, he's a very, very good player, and the connection with DC Shane Bowen as well. But I've gone for him, and then I've gone for Drew Tranquil, who played last season with the Chiefs. He's 20 years of age. He joined on a 1-year deal last year with the Chiefs. Spent his first 4 years in the league at the Chargers, where he had 977 snaps for 22, he had 977 snaps, 100 tackles, 15 pressures, 5 sacks, 24 missed tackles, pass rush grade of 76.4, and a coverage grade of 76.7. Now, he went to the Chiefs last year, and he was in more of a 3-man rotation at linebacker, and he only had 579 snaps, but he had 55 tackles, 18 pressures, 5 sacks again, and only 6 missed tackles. His pass rush grade was 89.3, and his coverage grade was 68. I just think, he's the type of player to come in and, spot start, push McFadden for the starting position, but be someone more in a three-man rotation of that linebacker core, and also like Aziz Al Shahir as well. PFF have him at 6.75 million for a 3-year deal, whereas they've got Drew Tranquil at around 4 million for a year average salary. So I just think these two players are a bit more in our price range and kind of fit what we want to be this year going forward. And sorry.
Bit of a rogue warrior there, Kev. I like that. Nice. Yeah, there's always room for room to add depth at these positions. Yes, they might not be necessarily be as important, but there's some pretty decent players that are on the market there, and I wouldn't turn my nose up at some of them. All right, out of the three positions, which do you think is most important to add depth to, Shane? Out of those three positions you went through.
I'm going to go for linebacker. I just don't think there's much there behind Bobby and Mike. Obviously, the likes of Cam Brown and Carter Coughlin, who were special teams players, but were linebackers, as their position have now gone. Obviously, I know you've got Darian Beavers and is it Johnson, I think, who we picked up in as a UDFA last year.
Deontay? Is it Deontay Johnson?
Yeah, Deontay Johnson. I'd prioritise linebacker.
Nice. Craig, which position would you go for?
Yeah, I've probably got to agree with Shane there. I think Jordan Riley did a good enough job when he came in on the defensive line. Nacho obviously still got their tight end. We just hope that Waller can stay maybe slightly more healthy than he did, and maybe use Bellinger better, seeing as he barely got used. But yeah, linebacker, you do worry that if McFadden does regress, then you need somebody next to Bobby O who's going to complement him, because we really need Bobby to step up like he did last season and really, play well.
Yeah, man. Kev, it's clean sweep.
Yeah, I think so, man. Just looking at the roster now, like the only inside linebackers we have on rosters, Bobby, Micah, and Darren Beavers at the moment. I mean, all the rest are sort of pass rushing outside linebackers. So I definitely think, we need to add another sort of potential backup starter and hit the draft as well.
Yeah, sounds like we do need depth for that position. Need to fill that box. I think there is a bit potentially concerned that McFadden may regress next year, but let's hope he doesn't, because he had a stellar year this year. And there we go. That's our free agency sort of dive into each position, done and dusted. Let us know what you think of the players that we picked. Whether you agree with who we picked, whether you disagree, let us know. And it's always good to hear your opinions. Gerald ever give me fantasy football PTSD. Bobby and Bobby, that would be a decent tandem. I'm guessing you mean Bobby Wagner. I mean, he's a baller, isn't he, Bobby Wagner? Let's face it. But yeah, let us know your thoughts and get in touch in all the usual ways. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for this week. I won't be here next week, but my more than capable standing Craig will be back with Shane and Kev to start looking at draft prospects with their top fives at tight end and on the offensive line coming up for you on Monday. That's Monday, not Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Anything else to add before we go, guys?
No, just it's been good chatting about free agency, and then obviously next week the draft content really starts. And apologies to any listeners about the chicken talk. Any vegetarians or anything, apologies.
Yeah, no, just really good to get back on with you guys. This is the time of year again where like the excitement's at our highest now. I mean, we're shopping in free agency. We're gonna add good players. We're looking at getting in more of the Bobby O's again, those type of players, and the draft is coming up, and we're in a decent enough position. We've got our 6th overall pick, 2 second rounders. This is a really good time to sort of like try and drive this team forward and build a roster.
Yeah, absolutely. And we appreciate everyone who's stayed on and listened, or watched, or who's been listening to our new kind of way of putting podcasts out in like little bite-sized chunks, so you get to listen to what you want to listen to, and maybe not some of the stuff that you don't. These podcasts are going on a little longer because there's only one a week, so we just kind of appreciate that. But yeah, we've gone through a massive number of players there. Next 2 weeks, draft content, and then we get to go through the first signings. That's when we get to start looking at some of the players who are actually going to be playing for the New York Giants next year.
Yeah, buddy, it's coming around quick. I mean, we're at the end of February already. Who can believe it? This time of year it goes so quickly. We think the season's 6 months away, but before we know it, it'll be here, and it'll be kickoff weekend in what seems like a couple of weeks away. But yeah, looking forward to the next few weeks on what's coming up. And yeah, apologies for any chicken talk or any things like that this evening if we offended any vegetarians out there. But also, I want to echo what Craig said about the podcast, the way we have split it up into sections. If you like that format, how we've done that, let us know. Give us some feedback. Either drop us a DM on Twitter or in the comments on YouTube, whichever way you want to get in touch. Let us know what you think of that, and if you enjoy listening to us or watching us that way as well, because it's always good to hear the feedback and try and improve what we offer out. To get any latest updates and notifications when we'll be live, make sure you subscribe to that YouTube channel if you don't already. And if you like this or any of our videos, give us a thumbs up and feel free to share it out too. My thanks as ever go to Shane, to Kev, and to producer Craig for joining me. The viewers and listeners for tuning in. We're signing off. Until next time, let's go Giants.